Hundreds of tips are flowing in, according to a pair of Republican senators who set up a whistleblower campaign for critical race theory being taught inside the military. Senator Tom Cotton, who set up the tip line with Congressman Dan Crenshaw, announced the huge response on Twitter saying, quote, "The problem is real and worse than we thought." And to give you a picture of how hot the debate is, Democrat Congresswoman Haley Stevens of Michigan gets shouted down at a recent town hall after she refused to take a stance on CRT. Now, Rachel Campos-Duffy co-hosts Fox and Friends Weekend and host of Moms on Fox Nation. Leslie Marshall, syndicated radio host and Fox News contributor. Great to see you both. Leslie, I'm going to come to you first. If you don't take a stand on something as important as this is right now to parents, one of whom all of us are, so most of our kids are in school-aged, situations and already dealing with some of this. Where does that put Democrats?
Well, if you're looking at Michigan's 11th district, which Congresswoman Stevens is in charge of, which has more than, now with redistricting, more than 90% demographics are white, Caucasian in that district, you hear some yelling of coward and things. But the problem is here, Harris, there are two things that Congress people deal with. One, their personal and private feelings about an issue, and then two, what their constituents desire them to do and how they want them to vote. She is accurate. Critical race theory is not something that congressional members will be voting on. And further, when you look at the polling, it's not even in the top 10 or 15 of the majority of voters' minds. And that's not just on the left, that's also on the right. So people may call her coward. She could share her personal feelings on it, but it's not part of the legislative agenda.
So it's an interesting
point. It's not what she was elected to do, and that is a district that was flipped, and Republicans are looking hard to flip it back.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right about where the polling would show congressional issues are hot for people. But when a room full of people bring something up and you're a leader, you have to find a way not to get called coward and actually have something to say. It's not like it's happening in a vacuum. It's happening all over the country. Rachel?
So this is absolutely happening. And if you listen to the voices, in the Democrat Party, the loudest one being Barack Obama, they're trying to tell us that, this isn't happening. This is a right-wing conspiracy. No, this is cultural Marxism. It's happening. It has a purpose. They know it. It's about dividing our country by race. Instead of class, as was done in the Cultural Revolution in China. So it is happening, and actually there is a congressional place in this. The budget, in the education budget, which she sits on some committees for those, that Congresswoman does, actually incentivizes states to do critical race theory in order to get these grants. So yes, there is a place for that, and we all ought to be aware of it. What Senator Cotton and Dan Crenshaw, this whistleblower line is so important because, as you know, Harris, you're a military brat, so am I. The military was this last vestige of meritocracy. It was the first to be integrated. It had the most interracial friendships, the most interracial marriages, and now they have injected all of this critical race theory that is causing so much harm and mistrust between people who need to trust each other in order to save their lives.
Right.
This is so wrong. And Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who is obsessed with race, will go down in history as the man who broke the military. It is so sad for someone like me who has a history with that to see what's happening right now.
All right, Leslie, I want to give you a quick chance to respond to that because we went from school to military, and as Rachel has pointed out, CRT is a hot topic in both.
Look, our military is the best in the world, and critical race theory is not going to bring them down. They're bigger, better, and stronger than any idea. Look, critical race theory has actually been an academic idea that's been around for about 40 years. The military has had its share of problems with regard to race, equity, diversity, and this diversity training in the military, just like in companies or in schools, is meant to bring about more inclusion and more equity and more diversity and more understanding. It's not meant to separate. This is not dividing the country.
Well, it has done that through the years.
Honestly, I think politics is dividing the country more than race.
It has, and I don't know if you want to lay like a tapestry what your idea is or anyone's idea is, Leslie, of making the military more like the rest of the country at schools or whatever, but it has done that. People like my father in the 60s and in the late 50s when there were signs telling us where we couldn't drink and could in this country, loved this country so much that they served served that military, and he was as black as I am. So that opportunity has always been there. The road may not be completely smooth at all times, but it is America. Rachel, real quick, and then we do have to go.
I just need to make this point. The stand down that Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin put in place actually changes the definition of white supremacy. That definition now, I would be considered a white supremacist because I supported Trump, because I don't believe that our country was founded in 1619, and I believe that it was founded in 1776 on the idea of freedom. This is dangerous, and it is a purge that is happening right now in the military, and they are using the events of January 6th, for which there is a lot of misinformation, as an excuse to absolutely weaponize and purge our military.
Again, Leslie, I want to come back to you on something that you said that you're absolutely right about, and I'm hoping that Democrats and Republicans get to those issues that polling shows are so important to people, like the border crisis. You've got to call the vice president and tell her to call the governor of Texas. Just a suggestion. Okay. Good to see you both. Thank you.
If you're coming back to me, I'm on the record as saying I felt the vice president should have, and I still think she should go to the border. If I was vice president, and no, I probably never would be, but if I were vice president and tasked with immigration, I would be going to the border, almost certainly, to look with my own eyes at what is happening there.
All right, we'll move on. Thank you. Thank you both.
I would prefer Leslie to Kamala Harris as vice president. I'll tell you that.
I knew you were going to say that.
Thanks, Rachel.
Okay.